What's up, guys? Sean Emory, Avory and Company, founder and chief investment officer. And today I wanted to do a post-mortem on Square, provide some takeaways from the earnings report that just was released. I think the message was clear. Number one, they're focused on product. Number two, they're focusing on sales organization, focusing on enterprise level sales, but also sticking to some of their product-led growth. And then lastly, number three, is continuing that emphasis on profitable growth. They finished the quarter with guidance increasing. They finished the gross profit dollars surpassing their prior guidance, profitability as well. Again, both those numbers were taken up for the full year, and so really strong numbers. The other important number is the $3 billion share buyback that was announced. Almost 10% of the market cap of the business. They completed, their $1.5 billion buyback, or are very close to completion. So that is something where, again, they're focused on growth, they're focused on capital allocation, and doing so through profitable growth, which Jack and Amrita, I think, hinted at quite a bit during the call. Now, if we just look at some of the numbers, again, the whole business grew 20% gross profit dollars to $2.23 billion. Cash App came in ahead of that at $23 billion, so that was nice to see. And that was driven by their monetization rate. I think that came in at 1.53%. You saw cash or inflows per active continue to perform, pretty well. And then also their Cash App Borrow, Buy Now, Pay Later product, and their Cash Card perform well as well. The Square gross profit dollars were up 15%, so slightly below the total company. However, that was pretty close to where, they expected it at. And that was driven by a lot of the subscription business. So, again, clear takeaways is focused on product sales, the share buyback, and also their emphasis around, growth and profitability. If we get into some of the numbers here, around margins, margins continue to perform well. Operating margin, and then also their adjusted operating margin came in at 14 and 18%. For the full year, though, their guidance, they raised that in terms of, their path to a rule of 40. And I think that, again, signifies that, this company is growing and doing so in a highly profitable way. A couple other things I wanted to point here. If you look at Square and you look at Cash App, really they're two ecosystems that matter. Square's GPV was up 8% to $58 billion. That was slightly below, call it Wall Street, but still a pretty strong number. And that came in different flavors. So if you had international, that was up 22% in constant currency. US GPV, gross, payment volume, it was up 6% in the US. And gross profit dollars internationally was up 34%. So their international business continues to grow for Square. If you turn to kind of Cash App, their gross profit dollars, like I said before, was up roughly 23%. And a couple key points that I wanted to highlight was, Cash App Borrow, kind of their $100 loan product, where they essentially, provide loans around $100. The loans kind of sit out there for about 30 days, and they turn that, nearly 15 times a year. So very low dollar value, highly reoccurring kind of loans, and the loan losses on those are sub 1% as per, Amrita on the script. The amount of loans coming out of this, they saw this quarter was $2 billion in originations, and that's up nearly like 3x%. So, they've had this concept for Cash App really around banking the bank. And a lot of what a bank does is obviously lend. And so you're seeing kind of an interesting, way that they're providing loans to their consumers there. The Cash App card, they added a couple different interesting, or Cash App in general, two products that one I knew about and one I didn't. Card, or the Cash App card spending insights, I think is an interesting way to build more and more engagement inside of Cash App. And also the Cash App Local, which I think, is an interesting or important development. We've always thought that Cash App has the availability to drive more local commerce. And it sounds like, from what they said, I couldn't find it anywhere in terms of the exact product, but it sounds like you'll be able to buy, goods and services through your local merchants through Cash App. which I think is an important way to use, a payment technology, geolocation, all in one application. And I think that's, really smart. The couple other things that I wanted to point out. They shockingly enough, that in the shareholder letter or anything around it, they didn't talk about the deal for with Core Scientific, which was the fact that they're creating these 3 nanometer chips that are really functioning in a custom way for Bitcoin miners. But they were asked about it on the call, and thankfully. And the conclusion there, Jack basically said, we have one of the best technologies out there. We're going to take this market. Bitmain owns, 80-90% of this business or this market. And, we're gunning for all that, and we think we're going to succeed. I think that was the generalized takeaway. Consumers with Bitmain customers of Bitmain aren't that happy. And so that's the opportunity. No sizing. We probably wanted a little bit more color on what's going on there, but we did not get it. Product wise, I talked about Cash App and their Cash App Local and spending insights. But at the same time, I think an important development for Square was really around the kiosks and also, their partnership with US Foods, which puts them, in a different category to win new business and win, bigger new business deals. So that Square with partners and US Foods, they're a supplier to many companies. And, I'm assuming what happens there is, the customers of US Foods could potentially use someone like, Square's point of sale technology and payment technology. What we should expect for Square and more broadly is a lot more around the app coming together in one cohesive ecosystem. So they said by like year end, what we should see in the App Store is a single app that, depending on kind of your flow into it, will kind of customize to your needs. So streamlining a little bit of the onboarding process. They talked about Square sellers coming on. There used to be 30 different questions that you needed or steps. And I think now it's, 3 steps or 5 steps, Jack repeated over and over again. And that's going to be a big unlock to increasing, the potential sellers on the platform. So going forward, I think, Square Block is well positioned. They had a good quarter, both on top line and bottom line. What I think investors want to continue to see is, driving towards GPV growth, specifically for Square and the Square seller business. And I think they're doing all the right steps from a, sales product leadership wise, but also from a product wise, consolidating, making these much more streamlined kind of operations, focusing their efforts on, more, call it enterprise sales, but also making a product easy to onboard and product-led growth as well. On the Cash App side, again, having a clear focus on that $150,000 kind of income family cohort and below, and maximizing the opportunity in that. And I think they're doing so, across different dimensions. Having Afterpay as the lead, I think, is important because Afterpay is ultimately kind of the call it the middle child of all these, the Square seller and Cash App, and having somebody that has built great product, great sales, be kind of the Trojan to essentially lead the integration of these ecosystems. So more to come. $3 billion buyback. Obviously, that keeps investors at bay for the time being as they continue to progress in some of the transformation around product and sales. But with that, let's have a good next quarter, and I'll speak to you next time.